Welcome to Take 2 on variables and surveys. I'm going to do a little bit of reviewing because I'm kind of concerned based on what I saw from your research inquiries, which is exactly why we did them, so that I could help you get on track for this project. So let's go ahead and I'm going to zoom back to variables for a minute, and then I will continue on with surveys, which you see for this upcoming week. And I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and stress a few things under the variables lecture. And it's really these variable levels of measurements. One of the things that I noticed repeatedly in your research inquiries is that many of you are giving me nominal and ordinal variables. Remember, we want interval level variables. You need for this study at least 3 interval level variables, 3 of them. Now let's go back again real quick and talk about nominal and ordinal. We can't do a whole lot with these. These are essentially check marks or numbers. So I gave you this slide and I said anything that's like biological sex, political affiliation, employment status, marital status, this is very nominal. It's a checkbox. We just check it. There's nothing to it. So if you ask me, how does gender influence political affiliation? That is a research question that's legitimate, but it's got nominal variables. It doesn't, all I have to do is tell you my sex and then tell you my political affiliation. That's it. Ordinal is time. Time is a rank order. 3 comes, before 4. 5 comes after 4 in time. So when you say time spent online, that's only an ordinal variable. These are good. We're going to use them in our survey, but you must have at least 3 interval variables. Remember, an interval variable is a concept that has multiple questions being asked about it, and you also answer it based on an interval scale, like 1 strongly disagree or 5 strongly agree. So if you have variables that are just asking me gender and time spent online, those don't meet the criteria, okay? I need interval level variables. And I was really worried because a lot of you only gave me nominal ordinal. So you need at least 3 interval level variables. We're going to be getting into the measurement chapter and talking more about this, so I really hope the concept is clear between the different types of levels of measurement, all right? So we're really talking about putting your survey together next. And we're going to go ahead, and I have a document that's going to walk you through your survey construction. Remember, your job this week was to look through all of these different measures and see if you could find ones that represent, all these measures represent interval level data, and find them so we can start picking and choosing and putting together our surveys from a bunch of different surveys. So I gave you a lot of popular measures here, and I also added and sent you out an email if you didn't check this variable websites. And I want to pull your attention to this because not only does it have the IPIP I showed you in class and the McCroskey measures, very popular COMM researcher, I've added a document from a book that we all have in the COMM research field. It's a secret book. It's not really, but it is a book with 300 pages of nothing but communication measures or surveys. Now, you can see these are all things that measure communication, verbal communication, things that measure nonverbal communication, receiver perceptions, persuasion, compliance gaining, interaction traits, personality traits, apprehension, aging and communication. All these are different surveys for computer-mediated communication, conflict communication. Look at all these different family communication scales, gender, group, health communication scales, instructional, I'm only in the eyes here, intercultural communication scales, interpersonal, all of these interpersonal measures to look at interpersonal concepts and communication. We have mass media. Some of you want to look at this, hostile media perceptions, consumption of media and advertising, news credibility scale. These are all surveys you could be using. Here's all the org communication scales, all right? Political, public. All right. Whole book. If you see a scale here and you say, wow, I'd really like to see that scale, there's two things you can do. You can Google the scale and see if you can find a free download copy of it online, or I can give you the reference for the article the scale is in. That's what's actually in the book. The book doesn't have all the scales actually printed in it, but it does give the references to where you can find them. So this is another source if you're still having trouble picking what surveys or what scales you want to throw into this survey. So keep that one in mind, and that is in the variables module still. So I realize it might be difficult to keep switching back and between modules, but you're going to be using all these surveys here to build yours. All right, so we're really talking about survey construction this next week. And hopefully, again, you have picked two or, well, hopefully three now, different surveys that you want to use to measure three different variables. We have up here the survey construction doc, and this is really where I want you to start. You are going to be typing this survey in two places and twice. And yes, I know that makes you probably upset with me, but there's no way around it. This is not a copy and paste, so you will be typing this survey in two places. The first place you will be typing it is in a Word doc, just like I have here. The second place you'll be retyping it is into the program we're going to use to send the link out to other people to take the survey. So let's take a look at what or how you're going to start. You will start with a Word document, blank, and put a survey title up there. You can name your survey anything you want. Typically, we name it something generally related to what we're studying. Your survey, after its title, will have this disclaimer. You can copy and paste if you like, because it has to be said that it's voluntary, it's completely anonymous, and yes, it absolutely has to have my name on it, and my email should be in the document. When you start a survey, it typically has sections, and so yours will start with a section and the directions for that section. So you will start with section 1. Please answer the following questions about how you text message. And maybe you went and took the questions from the text message survey and you threw 20 of them in. But you asked those questions. Now you want to know about how they communicate with their significant other. Section 2, we've changed a major variable, and I'm going to throw in a new scale now that's measuring something else. Now, one of the things you should know is for different sections, if you change the interval levels that you want them to answer, you need to redo the scale. So we talked about you could have usually a lot of things are strongly agree, strongly disagree, but you could have always to never. And if you remember, there's actually a handout up here that gives you this research alternatives based on how you want to ask the questions, all the different types of response alternatives. And for each section, you have to re-put those there. They have to be present so that the respondent, again, clearly knows how you want them to answer. So surveys also are consecutive in numbering. So this means if you start section 1 with number 1, which you should, and you put 10 questions in, when you go to section 2, you do not start over at number 1. You start at question 11, and you keep going. Every question in a survey is a running total all the way through the demographics. So let's go ahead and take a look at, here's one more. Then I wanted to talk about the ordering. There's no particular order per se that you have to put certain variables in. Ask them about whatever you want first. I prefer the demographic questions to be the last section of the survey, so I will ask you to put those last. And all surveys should end with a thank you for your participation. So I wanted to flip back to the sample student survey I had up here, and that is again down in the variable modules, but sample student survey. And you see, you will not need a title cover page for yours. You can start it here. She called her simply the Familial Communication Survey. She has her disclaimer. She wants us to answer the following questions about how you interact in public. She's given us the key, and now here are the questions, 10 questions. Now she wants us to talk, or she wants us to answer the following question on our maintenance of relationships. Notice, even though this is a new variable and a different survey, she keeps it at number 11, 12, 13, 14. The scale is the same, but she still puts it again because it's a new section. It's absolutely what you want to do. Please also note when you're making your survey, you want to go to them from 1 to 5. Not the other way around. Please don't start with 5 and go out to 1. They always starts from 1 and then goes to 5. And remember, while some scales can be 1 to 7, I want you to make all the scales, cut them all down to 1 to 5. It's much, much easier. So then the third question, she has another interval level variable here. She says, please answer the following questions about your familial relationships. Gives us the key again, even though it didn't change, but gives us the key again because it's a new section. Gives us the questions and how we're going to answer them. This is beautiful. And finally, the last section is always demographics. Section 4, please answer the following demographic questions about yourself, which can typically include age, sex, do you have a form of employment? You could even, instead of form of employment, you might do full-time, part-time. Are you enrolled in school? I might also put full-time, part-time, no. There's your ethnic background. And interesting, this really probably should say race because it's more reflective of that. She wants to know the number of immediate family members, which is fine. But remember, it's just a number. So those kinds of things are going to go into demographics. And she says, thank you for your participation. This survey is about 37. I think that's a pretty good place because how many questions do you need to measure one concept? Remember, I said you need minimum in the research world 3. I prefer 5. So if you have 3 interval level variables, that's 15 questions plus your demographics, and that's a short survey. I want most of your surveys should be around closer to 50 questions. Okay, I would say 40 to 50 questions for your survey. I don't want them to start going over 50. They could go to 75. 75 would be my upper limit because now the survey's getting too long. And certainly we'll want to keep an eye on the number of questions we have. So this is a beautiful survey right here. It's only missing a couple of things that we're going to talk about, but this is exactly what yours is going to look like. Title it, disclaimer, section 1. Put the key there. Put the questions in. You're going to number them from 1 to 5. Section 2. Put the key in again to how you want them to answer the questions. Now, here's the tough question. Where the hell are you getting these questions from? You're getting them from the measures I gave you. And you can pick almost anything you want on those measures. We have to remember we're going to take concepts in at least groups of 3, but we can reword questions, we can renumber them, it doesn't matter. So if I have a shortchanged, I go back and complain. If I've been shortchanged, I go back and complain that question number 3. That could have been question number 34 on another survey. Don't care. Doesn't matter. It's number 3 on mine. So we are pulling from pieces of those other surveys and we're going to be combining them into one document. The only way you can do this is retype this bad boy in Word. Guarantee it. So you're going to be creating a Google Doc for your survey to get that together. All right, let's zip back to the modules again. And there's a very important part that we haven't talked about. So we're going to go back to our survey construction doc. And I'm going to be helping you with this part on Wednesday. But here's the big thing I need to tell you. You must have a code book. I have had students who resist doing a code book. If you do not do a code book, this project will fail miserably and you will be dead in the water without it. So I don't know what it is about students who don't like to do code books, but you've got to have one. So let's talk about what your code book is. Down here, after ordering and ending of the survey, you notice I start talking about a code book. Okay, a code book is something that tells you what every single question in your survey is measuring. It's like your key to figuring out your own survey. If you don't have this key, you will have no way of knowing what you're actually measuring. So we have to come up with a code book. You can make up your own variables for the code book, but you better know what they stand for. So let's take an example real quick. Communicator style. I picked one of the communicator style scales. This is a scale that has several subscales. We talked about that last week. If you use a subscale, you must take, again, a minimum of 3 questions for that variable. No less. I prefer 5. All right. You can also put those 3 or 5 questions anywhere you want in your survey. They don't all have to appear in a row. And a lot of times we like to mix the question up so people don't think we're kind of training them to answer things in a certain way. So I decide that I would like to measure dominance, I'd like to measure friendliness, and attentiveness. I'd like to pull those 3. So I'm going to pull 5 or 3 questions from those areas, and I'm going to put them into my numbered survey. Let's say it's section 2. So I'm going to put the first question that measures dominance in for number 10. I am going to put the second question that measures dominance, communicator style and dominance 2, in at number 12. And I'm going to put the third question that I picked from communicator style dominance 3 into number 15. I'm going to use those 3 questions that I know measure dominance, but I have to code every single one so I know what I'm measuring. Then I'm going to add in friendliness, and I've mixed them up again so people don't, think the questions are all the same. So I've got my dominance question that I took from the survey here. That was the first question on dominance. Now I'm going to add the first question on friendliness here. Then I've got my second question I already put in on dominance. Then I'm going to pull 2 more questions from the friendliness scale. The second one and the third one I'll put here. And the dominance one, my third dominance one, is number 15. Now, if I were to go and add attentiveness, I could do that. I could keep going with that, and I'd probably call it communicator style attentiveness question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many ever questions I pulled for attentiveness. Every single number in your survey must denote what you are measuring. It is absolutely critical. I gave you another example from the humor orientation scale. This particular scale, there are no subscales, so I can just pick 7 questions, and whatever question I pick, the first one is going to be humor orientation 1, humor orientation 2, humor orientation 3, etc., all the way through humor orientation 7. That is how we make a code book. So let's take a look at a code book survey real quick. I've got one up here from a publication that I did. And again, got to have the code book. It's absolutely critical to know what you're measuring. So, I don't have the disclaimer printed on here. I did the disclaimer in Qualtrics, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this one says, the statements below concern how your supervisor, boss, and you communicate on the job. Please circle the number that best represents your perception. I do like those, of how your supervisor/boss communicates. So let's take a look at this. I put my key 1 to 5. I even gave some smaller numbers up here just to help the respondent. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5. Now, see all these codes on the side? This is telling me what this question is measuring. Now again, I got to know what my codes mean, which thankfully I do. This is the very first question here is measuring evaluation. And that's the first time I use an evaluation question. So I call it eval 1. The second time I use an eval question, I call it eval 2. It's down here at number 3. PRV, this is provisionalism 1, provisionalism 2, provisionalism 3. This is control, empathy. So every single question, I know exactly what it's measuring. Hopefully you're starting to see this. This gets a little more intricate, and that's why we're meeting on Wednesday. But every single sentence you pull from a survey has to have a code by it. So let's pull up a measure real quick. So let's go back to our modules. Now that I'm in this doc, and say you want to use, we can go to any measure we want. Boom. Let me go here because I think a lot of you will want to use relationship satisfaction. And this scale needs to be changed a little bit. So what if I wanted to add a section 2 in here and ask them to, I'm going to do this on the fly with you because I think this is the best way to learn. Please answer the following questions about how you communicate with your, with your significant other or romantic partner. And maybe you want to call this, we'll call it 37 because we're continuously numbering. And I say, how satisfied are you with your partner's communication and openness? Then I'm going to put my scale over here. Oop, it's not doing the tabs exactly. Oh, sorry. You get what I'm doing for. Wow, me and my fingers going crazy. And you've got to cut all this pre-formatting out. Now, what would I have? I would have my key here again. And actually, this, I could just cut and paste. Here's one of those rare moments in survey making where I'm going to copy that and I'm just going to use that here. Okay, so you see what I've done. And I would say that's not even... I am satisfied with my partner's communication and openness. See, you have to change the sentence. Are you strongly agree or strongly disagree or strongly agree? All right, now how would I code this question? Are there any subscales here? No, there are not. So this is the first question off of relationship satisfaction, right? So what is my code out here? Oh, really pissing me off with all this auto stuff, but it's not going to take it off, so let's just move beyond it. What am I going to call this out here? I'm so sorry. The auto formatting is driving me nuts. I'm going to call this RS1 37. Let me just do it that way. Okay, because it's the first question. Now I'm going to go to the next one. What am I going to put on the next one? Even if I pull, I am satisfied with how my partner and I resolve conflicts and argument. I'm satisfied with the degree of, I'd say I'm only going to pick 5. I would still go RS2, question 38. I am satisfied with the degree of affection and caring my partner shows me. Okay, I didn't even try to type it that time. And any other question from here, I have to put this code by it, RS1, RS2, and I keep going. Let's pick a different scale that maybe, this one has subscales. It's the text message dependency scale. So say this is my section 3, and I want to choose some questions from here. Actually, I'd like to use this whole survey because they only have 5 per variable anyway. So I would put my key in again, and I'm going to call the first section TDE for text dependency emotion. And then if I text message 1, that's the first question. Then say I'm on question 41 in my scale overall, I would put it there. Okay. And I put the question after sending a text message, blah, 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 blah. Now, say instead of doing I know I'm going to use all the emotional questions, but I want to mix them all up. So instead, I'm going to put my next one as excessive use and pull the first one from there. So then I'm going to go TDEU, I think, or I might just do T excessive use, question 142. And now I'm going to pull the first question from here. I sometimes send text messages. I hope you see what I'm doing. Now I say, well, I'm going to do the first one from relationship maintenance. So I'm going to call that T relationship maintenance. Maintenance 1, question 43. And I'm going to pull the first question from there. I cannot maintain new friendships. Okay, ... Now, I'm not finished yet. I need to go back and include the other questions, right? So I'm going to go back up to emotional reaction and do TDE question 2, 44. I feel disappointed. See what I'm doing now? Okay, now what? I'm going to take the second question from perception of excessive use. So then I'm going to do excessive use 2, 45. Then I'm going to say, I sometimes spend many hours, ... Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my third relational question, which is number 12 here, and I called that text relational maintenance, question 2, number 46. And I can't form any new relationships, ... I'm not done. Guess what? I've got to include all these questions. So I got to go back and do number 3. T text dependency emotion, question 3, and so on. Every question must have a code by it, and every question you add 3, 4, 5, you keep going. Let me see if there's another scale that might show you some interesting subscales as well. I don't see any on here right now. Nope. So if you were going to measure verbal aggressiveness, you could pick any of these and you would just number them straight down. Verbal aggressiveness, VA1, VA2, VA3, VA4, VA5, VA6. Wouldn't matter. Would not matter. All right, I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense what I just did and how you will be responsible for making a complete code book. I need to know what questions you're choosing and how you're deciding to code them. Your codes can stand for whatever you want, but then at the end, you're going to have to put a key again to say, I know PO equals problem orientation. It's a type of positive community. SUP, I know that equals superior communication. So you're going to have a little key that explains what your codes are, and you have to code every single question you pull. Again, we're going to talk about this more in person on Wednesday and give it a try, but I wanted you to see what I'm doing. Here's, I'm going to pull up another measure and I will do this again, just to kind of make sure you've got what I'm saying. Say you want to use the argumentativeness scale. Again, there are no subscales in here, so you can pull any of these 5 questions. If you pull these 5 questions, you would then name them. I would go the AG1, AG2, AG3, AG4, AG5. Put them in whatever order you want. All right, if you were using this assertiveness scale, we've got some different issues going on here now. If we can see both these in the same window, I've got subscales. So again, I could, let's say I'm starting this survey. I'll just start at number 1. And I want to call the first one assertiveness, directiveness. I'm going to call it AD1. AD1. Question 1. And then I have no particular, and I start there. Can I just go to AD2 flat out straight next? Sure, I don't have to mix them up. I can go AD2. Question 2. I shy away. I can do AD3, question 3, all the way to AD7. Oopsie. AD7, question. Sorry, no pressure here. 7. Now, what happens when I get to question 8? I need to change the code. It needs to be social assertiveness now. And it's the first question I'm measuring on social assertiveness, but it's number 8 in the survey. It is difficult, okay? ... So social assertiveness, question number 2, question 9 in the survey. And then I'm going to keep going all the way down to social assertiveness. There's, I believe, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll have social assertiveness 7 at number 14. Then when I go to question 15, guess what? Got to change the code again because these are measuring different things. And what I'll call this defense rights interest, DRI, question 1. Question number 15 on my survey. Now, I have a question for you. Say I don't want to ask all these questions. Say for this one, I'm only going to pull 4. Can I pull any question from that and put it in at number 15 for my DRI 1? The answer is yes. So say I really like question 22. I can put that in. When an acquaintance, okay, takes advantage, ... Now say I want to use another question. It's DRI 2 because I'm taking a second question from this group. It could be any of those. It's my question 16. Which one do I want to take now? I want to take when a friend borrows something, and I want to take a couple more, so I'm going to do DRI, 3, and I'm going to do a DRI 4, but then I want to be done. And I can choose any of those questions as long as I denote it like this. Okay? Now I've still got another section to go. Can I just leave this item out? Sure, if I wanted to. If I wanted to include it, and I only chose 4 questions for DRI, which means I'm a very bad researcher, let's choose at least 5, all right? So I'm at the next one. This is essentially going to be, I'm going to call it independence. It's the first question I'm asking about that, so I'll number it 1, but it's number 20 on my survey. And you can see there's actually only 5 questions here anyway. So I'm just going to pick those questions. 2, Indy 3, Indy 4. We've got one other thing we have to be denoting on our code book, and I know you're already guessing what it is, and it's this reverse R. So when you do have these questions, you are also going to mark on your code book, whoops, don't let it do that. Again, automatic formatting. You're also going to do that with an R on your code book to let me know it's a reverse score. Hoping this is making a little bit of sense. Making a code book is kind of, again, tedious, but you're dead in the water. If you do not have a code book and you do not do this correctly, your entire project will fail. So this is really the crux of making sure you know what you're doing when you put this code book together. I'm going to help each group go through with the code books on Wednesday. There is one more thing I would love for you to do for Wednesday, and let's not just watch this video, but let me go back to the module. All right, we're going to do some more on survey construction. Look at the survey construction handout. Continue getting ready to pick the measures you want to use, and I am going to help you chop them up and make your new survey. Now, while you are retyping this survey with your code book, which you are going to need, so you're not wasting time, you absolutely have to have this in a Word document with the code book written next to it. I also want you to click on this Qualtrics link for Wednesday. Qualtrics is the university basically account we use. It's like SurveyMonkey, but way better. This is where we're actually going to be inputting our survey that then automatically gives us a link that we can generate, an anonymous link that we can post on our Facebook, send out in our email, etc. Everybody at SDSU gets a KIN account. So faculty and students are entitled to a Qualtrics account. You need to click and register your account and basically get a Qualtrics account. Once you have this Qualtrics account, I will show you how we're going to use Qualtrics and what we're going to do with it. Again, it's a very powerful tool for putting your survey in. So right now, I don't want you to worry too much about it, but I would like you to at least go and get your Qualtrics account set up so you have that stage ready. All right, that was take 2 on variables. Make sure you know what interval level variables are versus nominal versus ordinal. We're going to be getting deeper into the measurement chapter and statistics and analysis of what we're doing after our first exam. So no more new information right now. I will see you guys on Wednesday, and I am most likely going to try and do breakouts with each group so we can look at their surveys and make sure you understand how to put together your survey, what kind of variables you need, and how to make that code book. It's crucial. I will see you guys on Wednesday. We will make surveys. It will be fantastic.